talking about SNL, the history, the mysteries, and all the hot impressions in between, breaking down all the numbers as well. In your favorite sketches with special guests, it's on the Saturday Night Network.
Yes, that is right. Welcome everybody on in to our Roundtable podcast here on the Saturday Night Network, the final regular season Roundtable of season 50. Believe it or not, we finally made it. We are sort of in the postseason of season 50, which was the most interesting, fascinating, longest, epic season ever. And I'm so excited to break down what we saw here in the finale with a great group of panelists and everyone here in the live chat. Of course, we are here as a presentation of latenighter.com and with so many friends on this Monday night to talk about just what was a pretty fascinating finale. So let's start with my man, Andrew Haskell. He always calls himself the closer. So happy to have you in once again to close the season. Haskell, how are you?
John, my Celtics eliminated. My Red Sox suck. And then to top it all off, I get in for this recording and John goes, "Do you have the energy today?" Because he knows I also have an almost 1-year-old. But you know what? I took that personally, John. So I'm ready to bring my A game. I am the closer. I'm here to help wrap up season 50. It's been an amazing season. I'm so excited to be here with you guys, with the chat, and to talk about the final episode of SNL 50.
All I'm saying is just roll back the tape to some of those season 46 recap podcasts where Haskell was running around like crazy, so much energy, and now 5 years later,
first year teacher, and I was about 4 years away from having a kid. So I do not dispute. I probably did have way more energy back then.
Well, we'll take what we can get from you. So happy to have you on the show here, Haskell. Joining us once again, a fan favorite, returning to the show, Arthur Meyer is here. Arthur, how are you?
I'm great, John. Thanks for having me back here. I'm so excited to talk about the series finale of SNL. Oh, wait, it's the season finale?
Okay. It depends. Depends who you're asking.
Yeah. And in honor of being a guest on this podcast, I will once again take half of a weed gummy. Yes. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I'm happy to have you. This podcast is not for the faint of heart, so go ahead and enjoy. Joining us as well, the life of the party, Rebecca North is here. Rebecca, how are you?
Good. I'm excited to be here. Arthur, excited to podcast with you for the first time, and hopefully your energy can make up for Haskell's serious lack of energy.
Yes.
I'm hoping so too.
Got to balance each other out. All right. Well, let's talk about the energy that Scarlett Johansson brought to this episode of Saturday Night Live, who was booked for the 7th time as host. She becomes the woman who has hosted SNL the most. And I will say, I am a Scarlett Johansson defender as a host. I had her at number 10 on my all-time greatest host list coming into the season. I put Mulaney slightly ahead of her at the start of the season when he came and hosted for the 6th time. And I was like, okay, Scarlett can make her way back in. I don't think she did that. I think she's still right outside the top 10, but that's still like in a pretty high class for me. And I just think, not all her episodes stand out as being like these home run episodes where she can come in and take over and it's like, wow. But she has a couple of them. And she also is really, really solid. I think she brings this acting ability to a sketch that is unlike some of the other hosts. Sort of like the thing we sort of point out with Ashley now, where we're like, okay, she's such a great actor that she could really elevate a sketch. I think Scarlett does that as a host a lot. So for me, I was really, really impressed with going back into the archives and watching Scarlett's episodes as a host. But when she was announced this time, naturally, the question was, why Scarlett Johansson for the finale? We've seen her a couple times this season, SNL 50. She was just in a few weeks ago as the Way POTUS sketch. So it had to have been, right? It had to have been because this is Colin's last episode. Right, Haskell? That was the reason.
The stars looked like they aligned. I think we were all on the edge of our seat during, Weekend Update. We're waiting for some sort of announcement. It also feels like they were teased, like they knew we were waiting for it. It felt like that tease was coming. And I think Scarlett Johansson ticked a few boxes. I think that makes sense for SNL 50 for a season finale. She is obviously still overwhelmingly famous. I think most people know who Scarlett Johansson is. She's a friend of the show, as a a many-time host. Also, obviously, she has the connection to Colin Jost. She does have a movie coming out through Universal, so you have that Comcast connection. I think she checked so many boxes. But to your point, I think we all kind of had it in the back of our head that for all the boxes that she checked, she was really there hosting for one reason. And at the end of Weekend Update, I think we were all kind of left wondering, like, did they forget to tell us something?
Yeah, because like, let me be real. Saturday was weird, okay? Because they set it up for weeks that this is going to be the way that it was. Like, you kind of got to be like kind of dumb to not realize what was going on, right? I mean, she gets booked for the finale. Then Colin Jost is in that fairy sketch. Okay. He's in the cold open last week with Cecily. Like, this is like, someone going on a retirement tour as their final season playing a sport. And then they just decide at the end of the season not to retire. So,
and then the Saturday Night Network tweeted eye emojis right before the episode. So, everyone thought that something was going to happen.
I mean, we can have fun too. So yeah, it was very bizarre circumstances, Arthur. What do you make of Scarlett hosting the finale?
I think I assumed the same thing. I assumed that it was, Colin Jost's last show, which for all we know, maybe it was. And, that he would, having been there for 20 years, get, the privilege of choosing whoever he wants to have as host. Because she has the movie coming out and everything, it just all kind of lined up and made sense. But if you look at it another way, she is, I would say, one of the best hosts of all time, which I don't think my high school self, who had a big crush on her, would have guessed. But I remember when she hosted that first time in, I believe, January of 2006, I was like, she was particularly impressive in the Fred Armisen sketch, the Chandeliers one. And I think what she is really good at with hosting is, like, I remember reading in the SNL book, Tina Fey described what makes a good host. I think she even used Gwyneth Paltrow as an example of this at the time, which is basically you're just someone who like makes a choice and you go with it. And it seems like that's her approach to sketches, is she's just like, I'm just going to make a choice and commit hard. And she's great at that. And also kind of surprisingly versatile. She can sort of do a lot. Like, she doesn't have the biggest sketch comedy range of all time, but within her limits, she can do a ton. So she must be very fun to write for, I would imagine.
Yeah, it also helps that you can, she can play super attractive because she is super attractive, but that's not like her only thing. And
right.
She's willing to make fun of herself a lot in sketches. Like, you saw that in the last sketch of the night where she's going to eat a lot of, gross looking food. Like, a lot of people who come in as like the hot hosts won't do something like that. And I think that when you can do that, you warm yourself up to the audience. I think what's interesting here, Rebecca, is that if this isn't the last episode for Colin Jost and Scarlett ends up, hosting the finale, but nobody of significance leaves, it begs the question, was she booked because it was the easy choice? Because it's been such a long season, everyone's tired from the 50th, and it's like, let's just have someone here who's already pretty much in the building, and we could sort of just, go with the flow for the final episode and end the season on a whimper and away. What did you think of this booking?
First of all, when I was on the episode of The Greatest Host of All Time, I was on the Scarlett Johansson episode, and I don't think I felt as passionately about her as a host as you did. And this brought her up on my list for sure. I don't think she's a bad host. You would have to be a little crazy to say that, but I didn't get the lore as much as I do now. And this season really proved her to be just such a strong, like, SNL. She's part of the family, yes, but she's not like a Nepo guest appearance and all these things. She actually like earns her spot there and does a great job. But I think, and this could be so wrong, this is just my hypothesis here, is that there was so much that went into the season and went into the 50th. And I think they genuinely don't know what's going on. I think there could be a lot of people that leave the cast and they couldn't do one of those big farewell episodes because there might be a big shift in what we're going to see next year in the cast. So they kind of microdosed it a bit. I mean, I think Mikey Day on Update doing The Man Who Walked into a Spider Web was him pitching at the Update desk, for 5 years saying, I have the funniest thing. And finally they were like, okay, go do it. I think Heidi being in every sketch and for having her moment so much, I think that could have been hers. I mean, Bowen at Good Nights made me almost be definitive that he's going to be gone next year. I think Jost and Che are gone. I think it's going to be a lot of people that they weren't going to do a huge farewell to everyone, rather let everyone have their moment in the remaining episodes of a monumental season, which everyone had their moment in the special. Everyone had their moment throughout it. And I think that's why they had her there, because that was a big farewell to Colin. And also Scarlett's been such a big part of this cast. And if it is a lot of people leaving, she has relationships with all of them. And I even think her and Bowen, and we'll get to all these sketches. I don't know. That's more my theory about this, is that they aren't going to do a big goodbye. I don't think that this means that all these people are going to stay. I think they just, since this was such a huge season, ending with essentially another special finale probably didn't make the most sense. And having Scarlett was a special host to so many people, like near and dear to their heart, because they have a good relationship with her. Not only Colin, I think that goes for a lot of other people, that she's hosted so much in the past few years and she's made so many cameos and she's probably always there. So I think that's probably why she was the chosen person for the end.
Arthur, did you want to jump in on something?
Well, this is actually just, I don't even know if this is trivia or if this is even correct, but I think so. I auditioned for SNL in 2018, and I remember when they send you the paperwork, they like sign you to like a 7-year contract. Like they can have you there for 7 years.
Oh, you just got out of it.
Yeah, exactly. So my time never at the show is officially done. But I believe that Bowen has been on the show for like 6 years. So basically, I think what I'm saying is that if you are or at least 6 years as a cast member.
He's been a writer, yeah.
Yeah. If you like, I was pretty sure he was not leaving, and same with Sarah Sherman, because I just don't think SNL would want to end their contract right now. But that's just a fun fact for any SNL fans out there, is that anyone who you can tell is doing really well on the show, I almost definitely now think will be there for 7 years, unless for some reason something unceremonious happens or whatever.
Yeah, so we spoke about this with Punky a little bit, who left after 4 years. And basically, So they have the 2-year featured contract and they have the 5-year repertory contract. And basically, the way that it works is you are signed from year 3 through year 7, except there is a clause in it that is sort of a mutual agreement for them not to bring you back for the next year. So in certain cases, if somebody doesn't, if the producers don't see fit to have someone back, they could easily call up a cast member and recommend that they break the agreement. That has happened many times. So I don't think we're necessarily stuck in saying, yes, this person has to stay. And like if somebody like Bowen, who has been around for 6 years, wants to go, I think they would let him go. Like, I don't think they're gonna be like, nope, you signed, you have to stay. Like, that's not gonna happen. So there's some logistical things here. But it is a great pivot point over to the goodbyes or the non-goodbyes that we got on Saturday night. I was watching this episode and I was trying to think like what it reminded me of. And it really did remind me of covering the show in season 46, our first season podcasting about SNL, because I remember jumping into that season right out of those at-home shows and going back into the studio, and all of the talk, all of the buzz in the SNL community was how many cast members were going to leave in season 45, but because of COVID decided not to, and that they're going to leave in season 46. So we went into that Anya Taylor-Joy episode being like, okay, we're going to get a ton of goodbyes here. This is it. I think Cecily went into the dunk tank during the weekend update and started, as Janine Pirro started like flying wine everywhere. And we're like, okay, that's it for Cecily. And we didn't hear anything. And then eventually like Beck left in August and that was it. And they all ended up leaving in season 47. And I just wonder if history could be repeating itself where everyone thought, okay, this certainly has to be it. It's season 50. But Haskell, maybe it's season 51 where this sort of mini era decides to break apart. What do you think?
Yeah, I do wonder, for a lot, like this massive cast too, we also have to think about some decisions might not have been made yet. Like, I do wonder, it's been talked about a lot about Lorne, kind of pressuring people to wait around, don't make a decision. I'm sure people like Mikey Day and Heidi Gardner, if they told Lauren, I think I'm going to hang it up at the end of season 50, I wouldn't be shocked if he said, well, we're not going to do a goodbye, and maybe you'll be here for season 51. Like, I'm thinking that could be a case.
Yeah.
My bang up Lauren Michaels right there, by the way, for those of you who said I didn't have the energy anymore.
He's back.
But I think that's definitely a possibility. The Jost and Che is the one that kind of confuses me. They are, I think we all, like, probably 6 or 7 years ago, we were all like, all right, Keenan's leaving this year, Keenan's leaving this year, Keenan's leaving this year. And then we all kind of abandoned it. We were like, we have no idea when Keenan is leaving, right? And I think we've now kind of gotten in a cycle where it's like, Che's even hinted at leaving a few times. And there's been a few seasons in a row where we're like, this could be it for them. This could be it for them. No, they'll probably stay through season 50. Now season 50 comes and goes and we don't have any inclination that they're leaving. That's the one that confuses me. And to Rebecca's point of like, well, maybe so many people are leaving, they didn't want to do something. Like, I agree that could be it. But if Che and Jost leave with the amount of episodes they've put in to Weekend Update and we didn't do a farewell sketch, I think that's a swing and a miss. The only way I think it's forgiven for some of these people, especially Jost and Che, is if the decision wasn't made going into Saturday, and it's not going to be made until the summer.
But can you kind of see, like, Che to me feels like similar to Norm Macdonald in the sense that I can't imagine a world where Norm would ever want to do a goodbye thing for himself. You know, like, I feel like if Che wanted to, like, get off of SNL, like, he would just not do the goodbye thing and just leave, you know?
Well, for a guy who's, like, put on his Instagram, like, 4 times in 6 years, like, hints that he's leaving, I think he might like the attention a little bit. And I also think, like, for whatever his personality is, I do think he really does hold that partnership that he had with Colin Jost kind of dear. And I do think if that team was breaking up, he would be down to do something.
Yeah, Rebecca?
Yeah, no, I don't foresee them. It's like, you could do a big farewell thing. This felt as big of a farewell thing as we could imagine. I mean, we saw Jost in the 2 episodes leading up to it in uncharacteristic sketches. They don't have recurring characters or recurring bits that we would see like that. And they ended with the joke swap where Jost almost said the N-word, and that's that's as high up as we're going to get there. That is Che's goodbye. I don't see him doing a huge thing like that. And Scarlett hosting, that did feel like this was as much of a goodbye as we're going to have for them. Maybe they do, like, on socials, like, a big tribute to it and their best jokes or jokes offset. What are you really going to do for the 2 of them specifically? Also, I don't think that they would want it. That doesn't seem very them.
Yeah, I agree.
I would say it would be really weird to me for them not to address it on the air, because there's never been, maybe since Jane Curtin, a Weekend Update host or a version of a Weekend Update that hasn't said goodbye if they weren't fired. So, like,
imagine they start the next episode, they start it, and then someone else comes in. Like,
yeah, and
that would be pretty iconic.
I definitely thought of that as well. I mean, I think that could even be the case for one of them, where the 2 of them are there, and then maybe Colin steps aside and somebody else takes the chair. I mean, there's always things that, like, they could do potentially. But it would just be very weird for me for a Weekend Update. And the reason is because Weekend Update, you're just like, you're playing yourself, right? And you're talking directly to camera. So the audience has developed a relationship with you. And for you not to say goodbye, it's like your dad leaving in the middle of the night. Like, it's very weird to just get to that point.
Also, if you're going to do a farewell, it is tailor-made. You're going to address it before the joke swap, because then the joke becomes like, this is where we are emptying the chamber. Like, we're releasing everything. We can't even come back to Weekend Update because we like the just heinous stuff that we have each other saying. Like, I really would find it hard to believe that they would go into a final joke swap not acknowledging that it was the final joke swap.
Agreed.
I thought that they were about to. Did anyone else think Colin was getting choked up for a second? I couldn't tell.
That's what was happening. That's what I said at the top of this episode. Like, they kind of teased it. Like, I think Colin just kind of fumbled over his words, and it appeared like he was starting to get choked up, and I think he played into it for a second. But yeah, and I think Michael Che had a minute too where it looked like he was about to say something and then just kind of went into the joke.
Mm-hmm.
Also, SNL teased everything about this besides an actual goodbye was a goodbye episode. All the teasers going up to it was a goodbye episode with Sarah at the butt of the joke again, with them like shooting Colin finally and freeing Scarlett. And then the monologue was also all of them. It felt like a farewell. It was another Billy Joel song, which I know we're going to get into the monologue, which could be a good segue. And like, I guess we have cold open, but it's like that felt like another farewell. And then Sarah was the butt of the joke again. So I don't think she's leaving, but like it felt very goodbye for everyone.
It was just bizarre because the episode was so meta. It's like one of those things that, like, if we're in an era where the show doesn't address itself, then I could be like, okay, I can understand why the cast members wouldn't want the on-screen goodbye. But given how many times they reference things that have happened in the world of the show, on the show, which I love, it's weird not to have that. So I'm going to choose to believe that Jost and Che are staying based on what I saw on Saturday night. But of course, there could be others that go over the summer. And it's one of those things that, like, we will be there with bated breath to see what happens. And if something gets announced, we'll, of course, talk about that. And we will have a full postseason roundtable next Monday night, where we will break down all of the themes and storylines and give out awards for every type of great moment we saw on the show this season. So we'll put a pin in that for now. And let's talk about what we did see here in this Scarlett Johansson episode, opening up with an incredibly meta cold open from James Austin Johnson, who's going to be headed to the Middle East to meet with Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, played by Emil Joachim. So big role for Emil in his final episode as a first-year cast member to play alongside Trump. Eventually, President Trump, played by James, will leave the sketch itself and head into the audience, where he's going to address the fact that this is the finale.
It's the SNL finale, season 50, worst one yet.
Very, very good stuff there from James. He's going to talk about what it's like to sit in the audience and all of that, explaining the rules of Saturday Night Live.
7s or more, sit on the floor. 6 and below, to the bleachers you go.
Okay, we're learning more. And he's going to deliver this live from New York from the audience, which I thought was a little bit of a love letter to the fans of the show, because it is the first time since 1985 that we get a live from New York delivered in the audience. And to break that fourth wall was a really cool way to end season 50, since there's been so much celebration of its history. I do like a little bit of a celebration of the fans of the show that we do get a live from New York delivered in the audience. So fun cold open here for the final episode of the season. Haskell, what did you think of it?
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people that, do this podcast, I've talked about how Trump fatigue on SNL kind of came even quicker in his second tenure than his first. I do think that this was a little bit more sharply written. I found myself in the Trump stream of consciousness laughing a little bit more than I have in some of the cold opens this year. I do think it was great breaking that fourth wall in a way that's different than the way they've done it before, with him kind of just interrupting his sketch. I think it's a little bit funnier for him to be like, I got to go. I got to leave this sketch. Like, I got other stuff to do. I thought that was really fun. The only thing, it's going to be the same sort of complaint that I've had about a lot of these, though, is one of the reasons him going out into the audience felt so different is because a lot of these Trump cold opens, and a lot of cold opens in general, have no blocking. They have nothing going on. It is the Trump stream of consciousness for 90% of it. And I would like to see a little bit more of a story be told in these cold opens, right? A sketch is a 3-minute story that turns into a game to be played. And I feel like we're just not doing those with the cold opens. If you're going to have a voiceover come in and say, Trump went here to do this, this, and this, but he found love, like, give me a sketch that plays into that a little bit more. Like, let me see these two characters actually start to fall in love and play the game a little bit more, as opposed to, I know SNL can write Trump stream of consciousness one-liners, and they can do it at like a B+ rate. I know that. But I'd like to see them venture outside of that for this character And I thought this would have been a great opportunity to do that. With that said, like I said, these were some of my favorite one-liners from Trump throughout the season. I think there was just so much fatigue to that point that if these were some of the jokes we were getting, back in January, February, I probably would have been a little bit higher on a sketch like this.
They definitely did do that with the Zelensky cold open back in the Gillis episode, but since then it has been very samey as far as what we've seen from James as Trump. A lot of stream of consciousness, a lot of, just going through an entire sentence and then yelling one word, which to me, always cracks me up because he's so good at it. But Arthur, I mean, you've seen every presidential impression in the history of the show. How do you think they're handling this one right now with James as Trump?
I think very similar to how they handled Dana Carvey as George H.W. Bush, where they were able to basically put the whole sketch on his shoulders and essentially have that be a go-to format. And I can't really think, I guess they did that a little bit with Will Ferrell as George W. Bush, but with Dana Carvey doing it as H.W. Bush, they would do it I don't know, if I had to guess, I would say 7-8 times a season or something, where it's just we're just going to let him be funny for 4 minutes on his own. And I think it's a testament to Jadge. Is that what they call him? Jadge. That he's, I think it's just such a funny, great impression that they're able to do that. And almost to me, and normally Haskell, I have the same complaint that you do about why don't they do stuff with more, why don't they have more of a concept in a sketch? And I feel like with Trump, I'm able to excuse it, I guess, just because so much of who he is revolves completely around his insane brain and the crazy, stupid thoughts that come out of it. And I do think that the writing for this one was about on par with the rest of them. It didn't really blow me away. I personally love any breaking of any fourth wall. I'm a big 80s Letterman head, and I just love any backstage stuff at SNL. But it reminds me of those Dana Carvey H.W. Bush days where it's just Downey and Franken or whatever would probably write something last minute. And you sort of have to be last minute now, which I'm guessing is why cold opens don't have as much blocking in them. Because you just don't, if you write something on, Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever, it's going to be out of the news by Saturday. So you're just kind of left with okay, well, what's the thing that happened in the last 24 hours? And to block anything is pretty hard. But I totally hear you though, Haskell. I always love those I like a good old cold open with a concept to it.
And I think that the major difference between the George H.W. Bush impression and this impression is that, the George H.W. Bush thing maybe had a little bit of Chevy's Ford in it, where SNL created a caricature of the president. The audience didn't really know who George H.W. Bush was. So Dana's version saying not gonna do it, all that stuff was, put into the impression. And it was almost like you're watching at home, you're waiting for Dana to do the beats of the impression. But with the Trump impression in today's day and age, with it being him being just basically on everybody's screen all the time, and you're just overexposed to him, it's hard to differentiate James's Trump from the real Trump. And that's where we get into a lot of discussions we've had over the last month of are they too nice in the way that they're treating him? Is he too fun to have on SNL? Are they Rebecca? They're making James's Trump the life of the party, the host, the MC of SNL in a way. So how do you feel about this, Colin?
The way to do a caricature of someone is to amplify their character, and to amplify his would to be technically to de-amplify it, and it would be boring. But here's the thing. This was not my least favorite of the stream of consciousness. This was breaking the fourth wall, but it's no different than he always breaks the fourth wall in some way. My favorite was the Lin-Manuel Miranda of the season. I thought that was probably the highest it's gotten. I thought that was really fun, and that was different for me. But we're never going to win. First of all, this is something that a lot of people don't like. So even seeing someone that might be kind of similar to them, you're inherently the bias in your brain. You might not like him. So if it's just him, then it's not enough. If we have more different political figures come in, we're going to have cameos. And then people complain, hey, there are too many cameos. So we cut, it's a bloated cast. Why don't use the cast? Then we have Bowen as JD. Why are we having Bowen as JD? That doesn't work. there are only so many people that look and act like the people that they're trying to portray. So I honestly think you're never really going to win. And also, this is unprecedented, pun intended, that like we're seeing the same character for so many years because he was president for 4. We had the election prior to that. He ran again. So that was another one. And then he ran again and is president for 4 years. We probably will never see someone for that long on a screen as a political figure again. And that there is also fatigue to that. So in my mind, this was an election year, so there was going to be even more stuff. Maybe next season, do every other episode be a political cold open and do something else in pop culture. I think that's really what it is, because they're really never going to win. And yes, this was different, but was it really different? I'm even seeing in the chat, people are like, oh, look, he broke the fourth wall, but he always breaks the fourth wall. You're never going to win with a Trump impression.
But I think part of the issue naturally is, and this gets into the logistics of the show, that TV ratings are not as important to them as they once were. And now social metrics matter more for success on the show. And the truth is that when they have a Trump cold open, that's the thing that's getting the most views for them. So they almost feel like they're obligated to go ahead and do this in a way. I just don't know if the every second episode thing would work for them, which is, basically saying that the show isn't necessarily for us, the diehards that are always watching and worried about everything being the same all the time. It's just a little bit of
do the white POTUS. Like if they didn't do the Amy Lou Wood impression, that would have been like a perfect, obviously that there was a lot that went into that, but something different where you're having the same people, but in a different thing, to your point, like to Haskell's point before, have him fall in love with someone. Like do something that is completely made up. And then you go from there. That's the only thing that they haven't really tried in a cold open. And that's could be the winning formula for next season.
Yeah. Arthur.
I think the thing I like about it conceptually is that it is sort of impressionistically an accurate observation of just what Trump does. Like he's just everywhere and he's just talking all the time. And like,
right.
That's kind of funny in itself to me, like it's just, you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And I'll also just say for James, that I said on Saturday when I was watching this, that I feel like this was a defining moment for his SNL career. And watching it on the second watch, I maintain what I said. I think, I'm always looking for, especially as we get out of a season, like whose legacy was on the rise and whose legacy may have, even fallen down based on what you've seen in the last, 20 episodes. For me, the fact that James was out there solo, I think automatically elevates his legacy. It's not just that he's sitting in the audience, but the fact that he's like opening this show on the last episode of the biggest season in SNL history. And the show is basically saying like, you're the one that's going to like open up the parade. You're the flag bearer right now. Like, I think that is so important and clutch. And I know from the naked eye, you could look at this cold open and be like, oh, this is exactly like everyone we've seen through 2025. But just on a completely meta level, I do think that this cold open is really important to show how much the show believes in James Austin Johnson. Do I wish that they would put him in many more things throughout the episodes because he is that talented? I truly do. But from someone who will be probably defined by this impression, no matter when his career ends, I think that I do look at him on another level than I did before. Haskell, did you want to jump in on that?
They trust him as long as Shane Gillis declines the offer to play Trump. Is like the weird story that hung over JAJ for the season. And maybe to your point, like, in we always kind of relate SNL to sports, right? And like, not to go way off topic, but like, I'm a big Red Sox fan. We signed Alex Bregman to play third. We had a pretty good hitting third baseman that we said, like, in Rafael Devers, that we were like, hey, we don't want you to play third anymore, but we still love you. And now Rafael Devers as a DH is having an amazing hitting season. Like, maybe it's the same way with JAJ. You look at it and you go like, hey, we saw a chance to improve our team, and that was going to include benching you a little bit. That didn't work out. And so here's the ball. You have the ball again. And to his credit, like, he didn't really lose a step. And then he does get this big moment in the finale.
And let's not forget the Biden impression also taken away from him last season, given to Mikey. And I don't feel like he lost a step as far as his involvement in the show. If anything, I think he grew as a part of his contributions to the rest of the show. Arthur, do you want to jump in on a thought on James's legacy at Saturday Night Live?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say right now, but I mean, the fact that he, like you were saying, that he, just came out of the gate in his very first episode, running the cold open, which I don't even know how you have faith in someone to do that who hasn't been in any other sketch on the show. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And he can clearly hold his own. And I don't even know if half of the current cast would be able to do that. It takes a lot of different skills, and I think he just continues to own the impression even more. I like any time that he tells the audience to shut up. Like, I like any time that he, in the moment, does some, ad-lib something, or even if it's about him flubbing a line, like he's, I think he's kind of earned that freedom to be able to do that. And I mean, he's, clearly an extremely dependable performer who I think understands the, I think he like comes from the Dana Carvey school of like the music of an impression, which I always really like to see. I've heard Dana describe things before as like, this is a rhythm bit, and his trumpet is all about rhythm. And when he changes to like the sing-songy voice on a dime, like the gentle sing-songy version of Trump, and then goes back, like he's extremely in command of that impression, with what I would imagine is a sketch that's getting rewritten up until the very last minute. So, he's amazing. And at the same time, I agree with you that, he hasn't really gotten to like, I haven't really gotten to see the full breadth of what he does outside of that, even though he's definitely shown some of it. I would love to see more, because I think it's great.
Yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to see what we get from him moving forward now that we're through the election season. Rebecca, did you want to jump in on that?
Also, not for JAJ. I think we should give Emil his flowers for that as well. Like we're saying, to be able to hold your own in the biggest finale, the finale, the biggest season, you're holding your own. I was talking to Mike Murray on the By the Numbers 2 weeks ago, and we did a whole segment about 2-person sketches, and Emil was actually on there already for his first season, and we were saying that's huge for your first season to be in it was either like a 2-person or 90% of the episode, whatever the deep dive was. You're 2 people, and he held his own for a 2-person cold open, and that's really major. And I think, and he did a great job. And I think that also is, imagine seeing that and that getting in, being just so happy. Like that probably is the best feeling in the world for him. So, and he did a great job. So I just want to give him his flowers for that.
100%. He's a super nice guy, and I'm really excited to see how he's going to grow on the show. Rebecca, I'm going to send it back over to you. I want to know what sketch you want us to talk about first, as we're going to dive into the sketches from this episode.
Yes, I want to talk about Bowen Still Straight, the pre-tape. It is, first of all, I've watched this now so many times because it's all over TikTok. It's all over my Instagram. It's a lot of the people on it did the behind the scenes, and the writing on this was better than the first one. I thought Bowen Straight. I thought the writing on Bowen Still Straight is astronomically better. Same exact concept. So when I first saw it, I was like, oh, what are they going to do different? And what they did was nothing. They did nothing different. Same exact concept, but the writing was just so much funnier. And to really be able to do that, I thought was just so amazing. I love when they can bring someone back. And like, you see that a lot on We Can Update different characters. That's kind of whatever current character on We Can Update is. Same exact concept, different writing. You don't usually see that for a full sketch. And this was a full pre-tape, and I thought it was amazing. You could tell, like, it was very Colin Jost. I thought that was a huge moment. I know we already talked a lot about him being last episode. This felt very that as well. And I thought Scarlett did such a good job in this. Although Bowen it was all about him. This was her sketch more than his. I even thought, like, she was dynamic. And that's what you're saying about being an actress. She was being an actress, and you saw the waves being like, wait, he's straight. And I just thought the writing was really funny. And the reason why I did not go into this episode saying this was Bowen's last season it didn't even cross my mind, honestly. And then with this, and they were name dropping all the old characters and what that Yang do, and what
I got to play that for the audience.
What that Yang do.
And
The writing was good. They did a lot of callbacks. Like, I thought it was awesome.
yeah, you also mentioned this.
Watch it, Mr. Mudang.
Which is a good bookend for the season as we get Mudang to start the season and we get a mention of Mudang at the end of the season. I think that what's interesting here, Rebecca, is that yes, it was a complete reprisal of the first sketch, and the novelty of the first one was what made it so exciting to me. However, Scarlett was really good in this, but particularly Bowen. I think what I really liked here is that I think Bowen is extremely talented. I think sometimes I don't enjoy some of the sketches from him where we see like patterns that are very consistent with the writing people he tends to write with. This time, this sketch is written by Will Steven and August White, and I'm like a big August White champion. I think that she's such a good writer. Will has done a ton of great stuff, a lot of great writing with Colin Jost over the years, but this is a writing team that doesn't typically write with Bowen, and I think that's the type of exciting thing you get on SNL sometimes, where you get a new writing team writing for someone who's pretty established with other writers, and you get to create magic like that. So Arthur, I want to ask you, as a comedy writer yourself, does that factor in potentially to your enjoyment of this sketch?
You mean Bowen's amazing performance, or the writers?
Well, the fact that we get to see like other qualities from Bowen because other writers are writing for him versus
Yeah, no, that was my favorite thing about that sketch was it was just, they did do this once before, but I love seeing Bowen do something that's very different from the stuff that he kind of does a lot, for lack of a better way of saying it.
Right.
Everyone has their own performing patterns and stuff, but this was great. It was hilarious. Even just like there were tons of small details in there, like him wearing those like the longish shorts when he's like playing video games in his apartment. And I actually had sort of an observation about, I feel like for this era of SNL, they don't have as many recurring characters as they used to, but they do have way more recurring like concepts than they used to. I feel like for this era, like the recurring concept is what the recurring character used to be many years ago. I mean, even the sketch I'll get to, for me later is also that. It's just a concept that they did before. But there's, or even if you think about a sketch like the Domingo sketch, which I guess, yes, technically he's a recurring character in that, but the thrust of that sketch is a concept. They basically brought back an idea, even if they did bring it back because of the popularity of Domingo. You're still just seeing a concept again, which is interesting, as opposed to just the game of this sketch is driven by the behaviors and point of view of a specific character.
Yeah, it's how you define world building, right? Because like in the Kristen Wiig era, you would always just check in with characters and getting to see like where they are currently. But here we sort of lose the continuity at times in order to be able to repeat the previous concept that got pretty popular. I will say, save for Domingo, which is sort of like had a little bit of a storyline.
Right.
But it is definitely an interesting idea to bring this back here. Haskell, I remember that there was a lot of praise for Sydney Sweeney's performance, and people were saying how that was, their favorite sketch from that episode. Do you think it was a good idea that they brought this back?
I think at first when I saw what game they were playing right away, I was like, wow, this feels like it's going to be pretty repetitive. But to Rebecca's point, I think this was the stronger of the two. I think, though, if you're going to bring it back and you're going to call it Bowen Still Straight, like, I would have liked to see a little bit of, like, what's gone on in this particular SNL world since Bowen is straight. Like, I would have liked to see maybe Bowen's, like, womanizing has caught up to him a little bit, and like something like that, like this idea that like it's continued since the first sketch. I think they did a lot here to elevate the sketch, but if it was a real, like, the only real connection to the first sketch is the naming of it, is to say
and Gina Gershon.
Yeah.
And Gina Gershon, right? So like I would have liked to see a little bit more of like Bowen kind of hinting at, or people around there really hinting at like what's happened since then. But I also think, on a positive note, I thought that the kind of the featured characters in that worked really well. Like Colin was awesome in that with like I'll take the stairs. It's only 30 flights. And like, I I'm also a huge fan of like when you're on network TV, like a great bleeped out F-bomb for some reason, like I think is really funny. And Bowen being like, yeah, Colin's my SNL brother. I would never do anything to hurt him or something like that, except for bleep his wife. Like I think that for some reason that gets me. I thought that was a great line in there. So I think they ultimately elevated the sketch. If Bowen is back and they do a third version of this though, like I think that's going to be time that you have to tip this on its head. And like, again, I think the natural progression of this game is like things finally catching up to Bowen, but there's
after all this, he turns out to be gay.
Or he's like, he falls in love with a man somewhere. And it's like, oh, Bowen was actually gay. Like something like that. Like,
yeah, the only difference is they made that the only like the outlier joke was when she was like, do you have protection? He was like, no, it's fine, I'll bottom. Like that was like the outline, that was the standout. But also Rada made a cameo too. I didn't call that out. That was good to see her. That
Not
was
her
just
first time
random
on
too.
Saturday Night Live.
I know, and I love when just a random cameo. Like, why was she there? She's hot, I guess, but it was just funny.
Yeah. And
Oh, that took me a second. Emrata. Is that what people call her?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
I was like, wait, who's Emrata?
Oh,
Yeah.
It's like interchangeable, her name. I think it's like her socials handle, and she just like gone by that.
I also love this line at the start. First of all, I love that it opens up on Heidi saying that she just realized that there are 2 Kansas cities, which is like such a great like meta way to open the sketch as well. Just knowing how much of a KC fan she is, and I also love this from Ego where she's talking about who potentially Scarlett has a crush on.
Creepy Longfellow.
Yeah, such a throwaway. But that's good. I do like it when in these sketches sometimes where they have these extra things that aren't like taking us down a different path. So it does. I think we may have spoken about this last year, but it does make me think of the Kyle and Leslie storyline where we got a bunch of them about how they were dating behind the scenes and then going to like the SNL ball happening. And like, those are the things where there was continuity there and they eventually have a kid. So in a way, like I do wonder if they were trying to differentiate from those pre-tapes and not do the whole that like Bowen broke up with Sydney Sweeney and then now he's doing this, like that type of thing. But yeah, I would be interested to see if this is a trilogy instead of just a simple reprise. Arthur, I'm going to send it over to you for the next sketch that we're going to talk about. So what do you want to dive into?
I would like to talk about the press junket. Is that what it's called?
The show called it the TV press junket. It was called TV Takes. Typically, I name sketches after like the name of the show that they're on. But yeah, the press junket, TV Takes. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So like I was saying before, this was another recurring concept sketch from. Have they only done this once before?
They did this in the Anya Taylor-Joy, speaking of season finale from season 46, and they tried to bring this back in the Billie Eilish episode, season 47, and it got cut address.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I remember really liking the first sketch time that they did this, and I feel like I enjoyed this one even a little bit more, although maybe it's just more recent in my memory. But it was, just another good sketch with like a really funny, simple concept. I thought Marcelo played his part perfectly. Just being kind of the cute, sweet, lovable guy who's getting lobbed softball questions. And, I thought that Scarlett did a great job. Bowen was great. It was just I love the rhythm of the back and forth. I don't know, just kind of a good old solid, like later in the evening sketch. It might have been the only sketch in the second half of the show that I enjoyed. I kind of found that the quality of the show sort of dropped off in the second half, but that was one that I liked. I think the two that Haskell and Rebecca are going to talk about were both my favorites, but this would probably be a close third place.
Yeah, this was really interesting. It was a big sketch that we were talking about from the finale of that Anya Taylor-Joy episode, which, like, by the way, a few years later now, probably one of the greatest finales in the history of the show. But this sketch was certainly one that we were talking about from that. And it was an NYU guest panel and, completely different cast in that sketch where I believe we had Pete, Heidi, Ego, Punky, and I think Bowen was also one of the panelists in that sketch talking about, and it was And it was a very it was a sketch that focused more on diversity of race and background versus the fact that this one was like one man, Danny Cheeks, who was the the focus and like the cool bro guy who is the star of the show, and then we're going to get to all the women who are his co-stars and focus on them. So there was like a little bit of a differentiating factor with these two sketches. Rebecca, what did you think of this sketch?
Well, I think they brought this back for a reason, and I think there's a common pattern. If they meant to bring this back with Billie Eilish, and there's been a whole thing with her culturally, there she wears very, very baggy clothing, and she's gone on record saying that's because she doesn't want any comments on her body. She doesn't like that being brought up. She wants to be known for her art and her music, and that's why she dresses like that. Not like she needs to explain why she dresses like that, but that's why. I don't know if anyone recalls why it's very poignant and why this is the most viewed on all socials for Scarlett Johansson's episode. This is by far the most viewed one, is because in all the Marvel, specifically the Black Widow interview junket, it was so out of pocket, all of the questions that they'd ask Scarlett. One interviewer asked her what she wore under her Black Widow costume, like on the set. Like it was
Under her costume.
Yes, it was so out of pocket. So I think they did this, and her being the interviewee, I think she came in with vengeance in this, and I think it honestly showed in her performance. I thought she was awesome in this. Her and Bo in Rapid Fire were great. I thought Sarah got the butt at the end of so many jokes in this whole episode, and I thought she was really funny. It was like, oh, you have really bad hair, and you bad hair, and you dress badly. And Jane, I thought, honestly, stand out too of this. I thought this was a really good sketch for her. I know she's gotten some backlash this season. I thought this was a great performance for her as well. I liked it. I thought it was funny, a little redundant. I thought there would be more. There was no change up in it, but this, I don't know what happened in the writer's room and anything like this, but this felt personal for Scarlett, and a lot of people online feel the same way, being like, good, she got back at it because like she had a lot of passion, I think, in a lot of her history being interviewed for years.
I also think there was like an extra layer to this that I don't know that I noticed in the first one in season 46, but just the idea that it's not like just that people will ask anybody anything, but it's that, once upon a time things were so PC, and now it's like every single thing about a person is just like so out in the open. So people think that they have like the privilege and the right to be able to ask these questions to create a good interview and buzzworthy moment. And I think that is a like fun thing to make fun of, because I think the show doesn't tend to make fun of these moments as much as they do others. So this to me still had novelty to it. Haskell, very unique situation where we basically see a sketch in a finale and it only comes back 4 years later in a finale. Just a unique situation here. What do you think of this sketch returning?
Yeah, it feels like a fun way. It feels like SNL tradition. I think a lot of fans, we've been spoiled a few different times in the show's history. We kind of like the show to end on like a big, like, let's get everybody into this sketch to end it, right? We have a number of examples. We've talked about them on here. For me, Goodnight Saigon is like the one. But there's a few different examples that the show has had. I think this is like the small version of that. This is like we're not doing this big kind of farewell to the season sketch, but we're still kind of, let's get everybody in, or as many people as we can, into a sketch. As for this sketch itself, I think this was a really strong sketch because throughout the night, I felt like a lot of the sketches that they were doing were like, didn't really know what they wanted to say. Felt like they were in two different directions. And this one was pretty clear in the sense that we understood the game. We knew where this was going. We knew what they wanted to say. We knew the point that Scarlett Johansson and I think a lot of people in that sketch wanted to make, and they made it pretty well, and they made it funny. I think Scarlett Johansson's really good in this sketch, and she plays a type of character that I think she does really well on SNL. I think it's very similar to the newscaster that she played early in the episode. But I almost wonder if the sketch would have had more teeth if she was in the cast being interviewed and really turned like a mirror to what Rebecca was talking about, some of the stuff that she dealt with when she was, in the MCU. Even to the point, I wonder if this sketch could have even had Scarlett Johansson play Scarlett Johansson. And then there's like this secondary joke where like Marcello's character is getting all the softballs and the easy questions and stuff, and it's like, wow, even like Scarlett Johansson can't even get the softball questions compared to this Marcello character. And then of course you can layer in like what she's had to deal with in the past.
Yeah, I agree. I also think that I know it's not everyone's favorite sketch, but it does remind me a little bit of Hollywood Dish, not the show that we once had here on the podcast, but the sketch where Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig would be interviewing people and then asking them to like ham it up because that's what like is happening behind the camera that you don't see. Arthur, you got that feeling as well.
Yes, and also reminds me of an even more obscure sketch called, I think, the Bob Waltman special. Do you know that one?
Oh yeah.
With Kevin, where this is back in like
Nealon,
the 89, I would say. Kevin Nealon is asking questions, trying to make his interview subject cry, to the point that at one point, I think he's interviewing Burt Reynolds, maybe, who's not crying. But then Burt Reynolds starts crying, and then it's revealed that Kevin's just slicing an onion right under his face.
Oh, what a great call.
Yeah, but I think that's it's another iteration of journalists, prodding at the people that they should be very respectful towards.
Yeah, and
I did see the funniest comment. Oh no, go John.
I was gonna say, I think that SNL making fun of the fourth estate is something that they should definitely do more of. Rebecca, you saw a funny comment.
The funniest comment online was that Sarah took so many strays, and they said Sarah took so many strays. Did Jost help write this as his final farewell to her? And he did not, but that would have been really funny if he did.
Yeah, of course. And as we all knew,
it's been a great season, and Sarah is leaving.
We're all gonna miss you next year.
Yeah, good stuff there. All right, let's head over to Haskell for the sketch that you want us to dive into.
Yeah, we got to talk about the Please Don't Destroy Boys. It's been a weird year. I think a lot of us have been kind of wondering what's going on. And it leads into this First Class sketch and probably gives one of the best lines of the night for me, with Scarlett Johansson asking, about, they've only had like 2 videos on this season, which probably to me was one of the best meta line of the night, one of the best meta lines of the season. For some reason, I think that was it's very common for like featured cast members to joke about like, I've been in 2 sketches this year, or I play a waiter or something. This one I think was just a little bit funnier because of the weird nature around Please Don't Destroy. I don't think we don't really define what they are on this show. They're writers on this show, and they get their little space to do their stuff, and we expected them to take this huge role on the show, and they never did, and none of them have actually been added to the cast. So it's just this weird sort of vortex that we're stuck in and not really knowing how to describe it. So to kind of poke fun at that, I thought was one of the best lines of the night. But this is another sketch that I didn't really know what direction they wanted to head into, and I think because of that, the second half of this sketch is way stronger than the first. I realized something watching that sketch, and this is going to sound crazy coming from somebody who grew up in the Lonely Island era. And, me and my boy Sammy K, we have for 5 years on this podcast have come back to that era of the show so much. But I think I'm okay. I'm good. I'm tapped out on the whole, like, we're going to rap even though we're not rappers. And so here's our rap song, but it's going to get interrupted. Like, I don't think I need that from every sort of cast member. And I don't think I need it from Please Don't Destroy. Like, if you want to do a funny song, just do a funny song. If you want to rap, but I don't need like everybody to rap. And once they got past the rap, I think it got so much stronger in just the sense of like them starting to question, like, why are they going to New Jersey? What's going on? Flights are a problem. They keep trying to get excited about it, and then they can't. And then we finally get to the point of this sketch. The strongest part of the sketch is Bad Bunny. He was hysterical. the way he looks up at the sky and is like, what color is your plane? Like, that might have been the line of the night for me. And I just think once they got to that point, the sketch got way stronger. I would have cut the song completely out of it. You could have had them being excited and having this like grand vision of being in first class, but I don't think the song added anything to it. The classic PDD quick cuts to some really funny, awkward lines was way stronger and carried this from like what I thought was going to be like a sketch that I really didn't care about to probably my favorite of the night.
I kind of disagree with you. I'm going to be honest, because I think that, you know, I'm totally fine with the fake rapping or whatever they're doing if it serves its place. And I do think that worked here because there's like sort of this thing where, and The Lonely Island did this really well, that when you're rapping, you're elevating your status. And I think that that's, you know, them flying first class and rapping about being in first class is like a sign of their like growth in the world and the fact that they're like accomplishing this big thing. So if they did this as like a country music song, I would be like, what the fuck was that? But I think that like them rapping about being on a plane like totally felt natural for the vibe. So like maybe we have seen a lot of it in different eras of the show since then, since TLI. But I do think that this for me clicked here. And I think that I want to throw out this take, and I said it on Saturday, and I'm very curious what all of you do think of it as I go to Arthur and eventually Rebecca to comment on this sketch, which is like, I've been puzzled all season long with why the PDD sketches haven't been fully clicking with me. And I thought it was a whole like in the office, out of the office debate that we've been having for years. But I think I ultimately settled on the fact that I think PDD works so much better when they're playing themselves. When they're playing anyone else that isn't a version of John or Ben or Martin, I think then it's just like, why aren't the cast members doing this? Or why aren't they cast members? As writers on this show that we're getting to see, I think they have to be playing into their personalities. And that worked for me so much better here, among other things. So Arthur, what do you think of that and the sketch overall?
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, I think I'm trying to remember, like, what are some of the videos that they've done where they're not playing themselves? And like,
well, just this season alone, they did the voice thing where they were all playing like voice judges.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, like that to me was a very weird one that I didn't necessarily love. Then they did the missing person sketch from the John Hamm episode where they were all playing cops. And I was like, also, again, like it just feels weird to have them in this role instead of cast.
Yeah. I think they're good in both. I do definitely prefer sketches where they tend to be themselves, but again, maybe that's just my enjoyment of meta stuff. You know, what's a funny pattern I found, I think, with some of their sketches is that they'll do like these really high stakes situations. So it'll be like, you know, jumping off a plane or like being in the plane and something might happen at Newark, or wow, there was a third one that I was thinking of before. Oh yeah, I think the thing with Chalamet where he's about to jump, you know, just these like super high stakes situations. Which I don't know if I love that as a pattern. It's just, it kind of feels a little bit like sort of easy comedy fodder for me or something. But that being said, I thought that this was maybe their funniest video of the whole season. I don't know. The Bad Bunny stuff was absolutely hilarious. Did not see it coming. Loved that it had nothing to do with, you know, his musical persona. That part was so funny, and there were so many small jokes in there. I think a lot of their like their little jokes are things to me that make it a great sketch. Even a tiny thing like turning to Scarlett and she just says something, I forget what it was, but she's like, Newark, baby, like something like that. But like, it was just a super quick moment that did not in any way need to be there, but it was really funny. She got to do that for a moment, which was also very fun. And I just thought it was a well-written sketch with lots of different funny beats and jokes. So I really enjoyed it. I thought it was, I would probably say this was the best of the night.
Yeah, I would think so, maybe. I think Scarlett also had a great line here at the beginning of the sketch, or when they first got on the plane.
This might sound corny, but the only thing I regret is that Avengers didn't make more money at the box office.
Oh, yes. That was a great too.
It's a great line, and I think it was in reference, if I saw this correctly, that she recently said on a press tour that her regret about the Avengers is that it didn't win any Oscars. So I
Oh,
think,
that's funny.
yeah, so I think that was probably in reference to that. But
Oh.
going back to Bad Bunny, I first of all, he was fantastic in the sketch, and he was also fantastic in another sketch that we'll talk about in a moment. But I would venture to say that Bad Bunny was better as a performer in this episode, like barring, like excluding the musical guest, than he was as a host. And maybe it's his like growth as a, being comfortable with the SNL system to the point that like I wouldn't hate if he hosted again, because he really adds like a layer of comedy that I think is interesting and different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He feels like,
yeah.
oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say, actually, what I really want to say really quick is that I was corrected by someone in the YouTube comments who said that Scarlett's line was New Jersey. That's what it was.
Yeah.
I really needed to correct that. Okay, you go ahead, Rebecca.
Yeah.
No, I think that Bad Bunny is also, he's not a native English speaker. And when he really became popular with music, he didn't speak English at all. So I think that also contributes to a lot of it, is just becoming more comfortable with the language helps with comedy when you're speaking English on a show like this. So I think that is a big thing. I thought he was the standout of the sketch, which was really exciting to see. I didn't think he was going to make a cameo. And then when they started singing and rapping, I was like, oh, Bad Bunny's going to come out and join the music. And he didn't. So I was like, oh, he's not in this. And then at the end with him there was just so fun because, whenever there's a musical guest who has been a host, right, when they start to sing, I assume the musical guest is coming out. That's just always my mind. And then he didn't. So I was like, oh, guess he's not. And then I know he's touring right now. I didn't think maybe he didn't have the time. And then he did. And that was so fun. And that was my favorite line probably of the whole night was, well, what colors you're playing? And it was white. I thought it was good. The sketch felt long. Like it felt very long to watch. I think it didn't need to be that long, but I didn't mind that it was musical. I didn't mind the fake rapping. I actually like, I don't know. I like Please Don't Destroy does this a lot of the time where when they do a song or a rap performance, they'll be talking and then the lighting changes to that blue purple lighting. And then they resume the music. And I like that from like a visual cue. I like this one. It was not my favorite of the night. I didn't crack my top like 3 of the night, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny and topical.
Yeah, and I'll also say about Bad Bunny that I think that kind of a little bit of an MVP, secret MVP voting for him for the season, because in SNL 50 and the celebration, I mean, he was a really good part of that weekend with him singing "I Just Had Sex" as a part of the Lonely Island musical medley. Then him appearing in Domingo. He was also in the Q&A with Tina and Amy. Like he was a big part of that weekend. I think SNL really, really loves Bad Bunny, and I again would not be surprised if he hosted again sometime soon. So. Let me transition over to the other sketch that he was in this episode, which was the Couples at a Bar sketch, where we're going to see Marcelo Hernandez alongside Ego, who are sitting at the table of Scarlett and Bad Bunny when they say that's their table. And of course, in this world of the sketch, the women are going to ask their men to fight for the table. And we're going to see, as they talk to each other in Spanish, the subtitles, as it is said back to us, are very different than what Ego and Scarlett are hearing them say. And it is very fun to have this scene play out with Marcelo and Bad Bunny. And I know Marcelo loves Bad Bunny and feels like he's a perfect scene partner across from him. But I have to say, I thought that, Marcelo's had a great season on paper. I think that not everything he's done for me has fully hit in the way that, maybe it has for other people, but this was killer. Like, I thought that he was so good in this. The things that he was doing with his eyes, like at the end when Bad Bunny basically sells him out and says that, oh, he said like he wants to be with you and go home with you, as we sort of got set up for the fact that this couple may not be on the same page about defining the relationship. I thought it was so well done from Marcelo. And this to me was a really creative sketch. And I would honestly say probably my favorite thing from this finale. Haskell, I'm curious what you felt about the Couples at a Bar sketch.
Yeah, I think there's something really fun about, they did something a little bit different. They played into having, 2 Spanish speaking, performers there, right? You have your musical guests, you have a cast member. They both seemed so, comfortable in their roles, and clearly it comes from the comfort of the language, especially for somebody like Bad Bunny, who's been on SNL, isn't a native, you know, English speaker, but to allow him to get into this role to really show off a little bit of physical humor, some expressive humor was really, really fun. And I also like when SNL asks me as an audience member to do something a little bit different, which is in this case kind of keep up with the subtitles to understand the joke. So I thought that was really fun. I thought Dismukes and JAJ were like so superfluous to the sketch and yet so funny. Like sometimes I like when I can watch something and be like, that was so unneeded, yet it was so funny that I'm not judging that it was there. The only drawback to the sketch for me is, like, again, just speaking of comedy things that I've seen before, and I think I've seen enough in my life, I've seen enough of, I think I'm speaking fluent Spanish, but the subtitles are going to be wacky and just out of place because I don't actually know Spanish. Like, I've seen that on kids shows, you know what I mean? Like, I expect SNL to elevate that joke a little bit more, and maybe that's something that, like, in the case of, like, it gets cut down and you're trying to manage a sketch and you're trying to get all the jokes in, maybe at that point you're like, all right, this is the beat, this is the clear next beat in the sketch, we're not going to overthink it, we're going to do this, that it's going to get a nice quick laugh and we just keep going. Like, I'm okay with that in that sense. I would just like to see, like, if they were to, again, if this was going to be not a recurring character, but, you know, a recurring idea that they go back to, I'd love to see them elevate that part of the sketch.
See, I think that on Saturday, I compared it to Statler and Waldorf, like the way that they were commenting on the sketch as it was happening. I almost felt like there was like a little bit of like play-by-play color commentary action in the sketch, which was fun. You're right. It was totally unnecessary. The sketch could have existed without it, but it goes back to, you know, the start of 48 where we had that Manning cast cold open and I was like, oh, this is kind of fun. Like SNL every now and then could throw this in here. It didn't take away from what we saw. And I think that's just the charm of Andrew and James, who are clearly like have this bromance going on that we just don't see on the show enough. But I love this line from Andrew Dismukes.
In their culture, the line between passion and violence is paper thin.
Yeah, really good stuff there from Andrew. Arthur, how did you feel about our couples at the bar sketch?
Well, speaking of paper thin lines, I feel like this sketch rode the very thin line between very funny sketch premise and like 1980s sitcom. You know, like, did anyone else feel like they were peeking into like the sitcom that Marcelo will star in 10 years or something? Like, yeah. the whole sketch just felt very eye roll sitcom-y to me, but I think landed on the better side of that line. Like I thought, and a lot of, I think what helped with that was the word choice for the subtitles. I wish I could remember more of them, but I want to say tomatoes was in there. Do you guys remember any of the other subtitles? Like the ones that the women were saying, I mean.
They threw a few boobs in there.
Yes.
Yeah, that seems to be the only one I can remember.
There were some good specifics there. And, you know, I thought the sketch was also helped by Bad Bunny being so damn likable. You know, he has like almost a Christopher Walken thing going on where you're like, I kind of think he's gonna be funny no matter what he says, and just very charismatic performer. And then anything that is big or that is written for a big performer plays perfectly into Marcelo's hands, who's, you know, not my favorite because but if there's a sketch idea that calls for it for someone to be big, you know, Marcelo is your guy, and he, you know, I thought he totally nailed it. And then Ego was great too. The Chipotle line, she worked at Chipotle. It was really funny. Very, you know, like a solid premise that could have been bad and managed to be, I would say, very good.
I totally agree. I was just talking. We have our SNL stories coming up with Fred Armisen on Thursday that we'll be releasing to you. So we just spoke to him, and
cool.
I brought up a sketch, Besos y Lágrimas. I don't know if you remember that one, but that was like the over-the-top soap opera that they would play. And this wasn't set up in the telenovela setting, but I do like that it was pointed out that it could be a telenovela based on what James and Andrew were watching. And I think that where it works for me and doesn't feel too over dramatic is in the fact that Bad Bunny is really good at playing cheeky. And I think he brings out that side of Marcelo that becomes like a little bit more playful and fun with the situation versus him just being high energy all the time. So it was a good like balance of Marcelo's energy into the vibe of the sketch. Rebecca, what did you think of it?
I thought Bad Bunny did a great job. I thought it was really funny that they wrote a sketch for the musical cast and kind of disregarded Scarlett in the whole thing. You three have all spoken. Not one of you said her name, and that's just kind of funny.
I forgot who the other woman besides Ego was at the sketch. That might be more of a comment on me being high right now.
It's just very funny that they wrote this for Bad Bunny, and I'm glad that they did. I thought it was really funny. It could have used some tweaks. I liked JJ and this mix. I thought it was funny. And I thought having JJ wrap that up, like looking deadpan at the camera and speaking fluent Spanish was the perfect way to end it. I wish that the story the line between passion and fighting was like, I wish there was something else that happened maybe between the two boys. Maybe they left together, like, because they were the ones fighting. I don't know. I wish there was something a little more to the storyline than they just went home. And Marcelo's comedy was really good in that moment, but their talking didn't really escalate that much more. I wish it escalated to do something. And that's what I was like waiting for, and it didn't happen. But overall, I thought it was funny. But to the point of like the subtitles kind of being like a trope that we've seen probably before in a million different things, I thought it was an interesting way that instead of they decided to say like, oh, wait, no, you literally don't know what you're saying to them. I thought it would have been funnier if they're calling these girls crazy and just trying to like appease them, that they're not like, yes, you did such a good job, and like encouraging them up. I thought that would have kind of been funny too, when they're clearly saying just absolutely nothing, being like, yeah, you got her, and like just hyping up their obviously really wrong Spanish. I thought that would have been funny. But overall, I really liked this, and I thought Bad Bunny was just like a star here, and it was great seeing him from sketch to the next sketch also. So he shined this episode.
Yeah, and I think this sketch will grow on a lot of people as they rewatch it, because the writing in the sketch was really well done, especially the fact that it all came together in the end, where you're seeing them bro out throughout the sketch and like being each other's defenders, but then Bad Bunny's going to screw Marcelo over at the end by using what he found out about their relationship against them. So for me, like this is probably... It's kind of weird, because when I look at this episode, and we're going to do some rapid fire and then wrap up our thoughts on this one, I feel like the discrepancy between what was good in this episode and what was bad in this episode was so far apart. Like the things that were good were really good, and the things that were bad were really bad, that there was almost like a bit of whiplash watching the episode that you don't know how to feel about it. And this to me falls in the really good category. Yeah. So
yeah, I fully agree.
Thanks. Okay, let's dive into the rapid fire section where we'll talk about anything else from the episode that we want to make sure that we cover. So, Haskell, let me ask you, anything else you have on your list that we can talk about today?
SNL's done some like weird stuff in the past. Remember we got a David S. Pumpkins Halloween like animated special once. Like they've done some like weird like, hey, let's throw something out there. I got the next one for us. I would watch a Miss Eggy full stand-up special, like 1,000%. That is like the first time she did that, I didn't like, I don't think I like respected it enough, and the second time I thought she killed it. I thought she is great. That's a recurring Weekend Update bit that I would love to see again, so I thought that was great. Also, Mike Myers and Kanye in the elevator, worst sketch of the season. I thought that was one of the biggest
sketch I might have ever seen since speaking on here.
I think
that was bizarre. I wouldn't say it was the worst sketch ever, because I actually think there was a worse sketch in this episode than that, which was the intimacy coordinator sketch, which to me it was like that's
I forgot to watch that one. Like it was on, but I didn't look up, so I didn't count that one.
I think they were both cases of just not really understanding what they wanted the sketch to be. And the elevator one, real quick, I would say, like, I thought they missed the perfect button on that, which is when Mike Myers exits the elevator, pick a celebrity that would make Kanye feel uncomfortable. Like, who's crazier than Kanye? Dress somebody up as them and have them get in the elevator, and now
Is there that person?
Well, that's the
Diddy.
joke. Like,
Yeah.
like-
oh, yes.
like
It was
That's
right
the-
there. They had the joke in the episode. How did he come in? Like they literally had it right there.
but I just,
Oh man, that would have been a great season 50 right there. You have Diddy come in as himself.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh! I didn't mean actually him.
I know.
meant someone
Just
dressed
kidding.
up as
I
him.
honestly don't think we want Diddy anywhere near elevators.
Yeah, that's a good.
I don't
call.
think we want Diddy anywhere right now.
Anywhere,
Yeah, that's
period.
true. Yes.
But that's my final map. That was a bad sketch that had really no point.
I feel like my
Is it just because he
main-
was Jewish? Like,
What?
was that the punchline?
No, okay,
That
so
like Mike Myers?
no, the whole background to this, I did go into this a little bit on our last podcast, but the background to this is essentially, for those who may be just checking out the roundtables, back in 2005, Hurricane Katrina fundraiser, Mike Myers, real Mike Myers, and real Kanye West are there, and instead of asking for donations, at one point we get this sort of turn from Kanye in his like first of many crazy moments to come, says that George Bush doesn't care about black people, and that became like a huge thing. And then shortly after that, we get the moment literally on SNL before Kanye West's performance on season 31, episode 1, where Mike Myers is backstage having coffee, and then Kanye comes up and talks to him. So they did like a real interaction that was sort of continuing the story. And then flash forward 20 years later, we then get this in sketch form. So Arthur, this was all sorts of bizarre.
Yeah, I think my main issue with the sketch was, does anyone even want to see anything about Kanye right now? Like,
No,
I was
don't.
just kind of bummed out when I even saw it. I was like, I don't think Keenan wants to be doing this impression. I don't think this is the sketch that Mike Myers,
He wrote it. They both wrote it.
Mike Myers wrote it with
Well,
Keenan.
I think Che and Carl Tart wrote the sketch, but then Mike and Keenan contributed to it. So it was like sort of like a thing. But I don't think that Mike
okay.
Myers was like, "Hey, I want to do this. Like, bring me in for it."
Yeah.
It would be baffling if that was the case.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I thought the sketch was going in a completely different direction. I thought it was just going to be Scarlett Johansson quoting all of Mike Myers, famous movie characters and stuff, which, not the most original idea, but I would have much, much preferred that to what the sketch ended up becoming. And then you barely even get Scarlett in there. It also felt strange. Like, I know Mike Myers has been on the show this season, but it just felt like, okay, so we're not going to do a sketch with the host in it, and instead going to bring back this guy to do not even a character, just this great character comedian playing himself and he's just talking about Kanye West stuff. It's like, you don't need to make fun of that. It makes fun
Have
of
him
itself.
as Elon Musk. Like,
Yeah,
there was any
anything.
other direction.
Have
Yeah,
him play Wayne. I mean, anything besides that.
It was definitely weird to have him in the building for the finale, and like this is what they did with him. And they even they did reference the whole thing, and I think like Mike, to be fair to him, like played this pretty well of like just wanting to leave the elevator
He did.
desperately. So I don't blame him for it, but like I'll say like if any of our
'Cause he
journalist
meant
friends
it.
out. Yeah, well, of course. But if any of our journalist friends are out there and they're thinking about the oral history of a future SNL sketch that they might want to write about, I would just love to know how this came together. This is one of the more baffling situations we've ever had on the show. Going back to Haskell's, yeah, go ahead.
Hearing that Mike Myers was involved in it makes me wonder if it was something that he.
It could be at a very minor level. It could be at a here's.
But I can almost see that. I can almost see that it was like he had the idea for the sketch, and then it's like, well, we have to honor him and do the sketch that he wants to do. Like, that wouldn't surprise me either.
Also, was he in the building because they want him on call to play Elon, and then Elon has kind of disappeared, so they had nothing, so they were like, hey, Mike's here, we want him in the finale, Elon Musk is doing nothing, can we throw something together for him real quick? Because this feels like they wrote it Saturday morning.
Yes.
Yeah, I also think maybe part of the thought is, okay, it's the finale of season 50, let's get one alumni in there one last time. But it was just a very confusing way to go about it. Haskell mentioned Miss Eggy, obviously crushed that on Weekend Update as well. So Eggo, I totally agree. Well, would love to see her come back. Arthur, anything else on your list that you saw from that night that you want to talk about?
Well, really quick, I just want to mention, I feel like SNL does these little these sort of threads or these like certain types of jokes, like in the one that they did for the Eggy thing. That seems like something that Marcelo has done in other sketches too, like the specific type of word play. You know, do you know what I'm talking about? Like, I wish I could remember more of the lines that Echo said in that, but were, you know, basically what every single joke was just some sort of pun.
Gotta look that up on my compoter.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, luckily, I thought they were all, you know, very funny puns as far as like pun comedy goes. But it was, you know, it's the performance of it that's so funny to me. I did kind of wish that they had one more mention of the phrase "make that make sense" this year, because I think that have they had that in the last 3 episodes? Has anyone else noticed that? Have you guys noticed that?
I have not.
Yes, I think in 3 episodes in a row, they, you know, first they had to make that make sense from the Andrew Dismuke sketch where he's, you know, the mob boss who got shot, but then they've said it 2 other times too, and I was like really hoping for that last one.
Yeah,
season 46. John would have had the stats on that, by the way.
Yeah, I just looked at my sound clips, by the way, and yeah, Oli Andrew, but I guess yeah, I'm growing.
Oh yes, Ex Benedict line was really good too.
I'm growing old now, Haskell. I don't have the same energy I once did. Rebecca, what about you? Anything else from the episode that you want to touch on?
Yeah, I don't know how no one's brought up the Channel 4 news. That I was really debating that or Bowen Still Straight for my favorite of the night. I thought that was so funny. I don't know why. It really just like hit it for me where I don't know, every joke was redundant, but it had the same type of humor, I guess, as Miss Eggy. And I loved it. I thought it was so funny. Like I was like cackling while listening to it. I don't know why, but that one really got me. Also, Scarlett's deadpan stares to the camera. Like I thought that was one of her strongest moments of the night because she was really, really good in that moment, I thought. And then Emil, I thought he was good as the Weatherman song one. And then also, I didn't hate Victorian ladies at lunch. Can't say I understood it, but I also didn't dislike it.
Okay.
Like hamster sashimi, that's so funny to me.
Yeah, so just I'll back up for a second and talk about that first sketch. Watching it live, I felt like Scarlett was really rushing through her lines. I will give her on the second watch like a little bit more credit for the way that she was delivering them. It did remind me that she was like the pace of what she was doing really worked in the way that she crushed the Katie Britt impression last season. Mm-hmm. I also felt like she had like a really strong performance in that. The Victorian ladies at lunch, I think, was a really fun sketch for another episode. This was like a weird way to end the season to me. But
also the black in their mouth for the good nights was just not the thought. I don't think they thought that through, to be fair.
Colin gave her a nice kiss of black. Yeah. It was a bizarre way to do it. The food was really interesting, like just the way that they presented it all, and looks like they went all out. I think at one point Chloe was like choking on the blood as she was trying to get it down her mouth. It was just like, it's one of those things we are set up to believe that if there was going to be a big moment in the episode, it may occur in the last 5 minutes, but just for it to have been that was like, all right. That was interesting. I would be remiss also if we didn't just bring up the joke swap quickly. So I think the joke swap was overshadowed for me by like waiting on bated breath to hear if they were going to announce that they were going and how the turn on that was going to work. On second watch, knowing that it didn't happen, I was pretty pleased with some of the lines that we got here. I thought the whole thing with Colin talking to Lauren was like a nice change.
Lauren, retire, bitch.
Which was, you'll never unhear. And I think, of course, this final. Oh, first of all, he's going to do the whole Steve Kerr's son joke, which has gone completely viral, and it brought.
What was the joke, John?
I don't think I can do it. I don't think it's that would make sense for me to do. But I can play you this one, which is the way that we all expected this episode, this weekend update would end.
Topping off priests with my pretty little mouth.
Yeah, that's how we all thought that would go. But yeah, I've seen the Steve Kerr son joke on websites that like don't normally cover SNL. Like it was on, like I think that made it to ESPN. Like that's the type of thing. Like Michael Che made Colin Jost say this, and it was just a very funny, memorable moment to have here when the last few joke swaps have been so good. So this was a lot of fun. All right, let's talk MVPs from season 50, episode 20, and figure out who the final regular season MVP is from this season. So I'll give you some of the stats of the week. So I don't have the line stats for how many times a line was said this season, but I will give you the rundown of the sketches. So Scarlett Johansson all over this episode, 10 appearances. We had the return of Gina Gershon as well as Emily Ratajkowski in that pre-tape of Bowen Still Straight. Mike Myers, of course, in the elevator. Maybe you voted for him. Bad Bunny in 2 performances and 2 sketches. We also had 6 sketches from Ego Wodum, who had a pretty light night in the penultimate episode, but ends the season on a big night. Heidi was in 5. We got 4 from Keenan, Sarah, Marcelo, a 3 and a voiceover from James. We also had 3 from Mikey, Bowen, Andrew, Devin, Chloe in 2 sketches, Longfellow in just the monologue for this episode. Colin Jost will appear in the Bowen sketch and the Bowen Still Straight and on Update with Che. And then 3 sketches apiece for all the featured players, Ashley, Emil, and Jane. Of course, PDD on the board as well for this one. So Haskell, who do you think the top 3 MVP vote getters were for season 50, episode 20?
I think Bad Bunny's up there. I think he had 2 really good performances. I'm going to put Scarlett Johansson in there, although I feel like sometimes our voters don't really give credit to the host as much. And then I think Ego Wodum. I don't think she had the biggest night, but she had some really great performances in there.
All right, Bad Bunny, Scarlett, and Ego. Arthur, who's your top 3 MVP for the week?
Oh man, I might have the exact same 3. I think I don't know. I think I do. I think Ego nailed it with Miss Eggy, and Scarlett did a great job both in supporting roles as a host and bringing her best committed performances to her characters. And then Bad Bunny was great. I also loved his musical performances too. I thought were so cool and different and funny. So yeah, I have the exact same 3 as Haskell.
Rebecca?
I was going to give the same 3, but
okay.
I'll throw in as an alternate option. I think people might have said Jost just because feeling that, or also Marcelo, I think, had a really strong episode with the Bad Bunny sketch and also being in the TV sketch as well too. But I really think those are strong top 3 there.
Yeah, very strong 3. Not the number 1, but very close, where we had Colin Jost actually was the number 1 choice. So good on you, Rebecca, for including him there. Colin Jost with 25% of the vote. So I think a lot of people looking at the episode may be thinking, is this the end for Jost? And but his contributions to this one. So Colin Jost, number 1. Ego is the number 2 here with 18% of the vote, followed by Bad Bunny, 16% of the vote, Scarlett Johansson, 12% of the vote, and then Michael Che, 7%. So we got our update anchors. We have our host and musical guest, and Ego is the only cast member on the board here. So Ego, or the regular cast member on the board here. So Ego, the pseudo cast MVP of season 50, episode 20. Of course, we will do the MVP of the entire season, as well as all of the best cold opens, monologues, live sketches, pre-tapes, update, all of that stuff next Monday night as we do our postseason wrap up. Typically at this point of our roundtable, we will look forward to the next episode. Of course, we don't know who that will be because it will be the beginning of season 51. So instead, I will ask each of you for a final thought on how you feel SNL did during season 50. Did it meet your expectations? Anything that you would like to say about the season? And then, of course, we will get into that throughout the next couple of weeks here on the podcast with a ton of postseason coverage. So Haskell, I'll start with you. Season 50, overall thoughts.
It was a season of Saturday Night Live. And when I say that, it might come off as a criticism, but I don't think it was. I think this was a season of SNL. I think they put so much into SNL 50, the special, being the special to bring so many people back and celebrate and put as many sketches into that as they can. I said at the time, SNL 40 was really the retrospective of the history of SNL. SNL 50 was like the SNL All-Star Game where they just said, you know what, we don't need to do all the montages again. Let's just all have some fun. You take the special out of it, that was just a season of SNL. They didn't really, early in the season, we saw Meyer, we saw Andy Samberg there, right? We saw Dana Carvey, but that was more because it was an election year than anything else. I feel like it's going to be looked at as a season of SNL that a lot of the hosts are going to be of the time. A lot of the musical guests are going to be of the time. A lot of the humor is going to be of the time. It's going to be a very topical season. I don't think when it's all said and done, we're going to look at this and be like, that's an all-time season. But I think there's going to be a lot of stuff from this season that we'll look back for many years and go, oh, there was a lot of good in that season.
Arthur, what about you? How do you feel about season 50 as we're starting to put it to a close?
Well, I like the way that Haskell put it. I think that this was maybe like the SNL-iest season of all seasons. And like every part of the season was that too. And I'll explain what I mean a little bit. Like basically, I think that the season opener did this, the 50th anniversary special did this, the finale did this, and the whole season did this. It was just like a regular SNL episode where you're like, you have high expectations that are not quite met, like you're a little bit like, it could have been better, but there are like great things in it too. It's a little frustrating. It's not exactly what you hope that it will be. But that's what makes SNL. Like I think about the 50th anniversary special, it was too long. There were some really great pieces in there. There were things that shouldn't have been in there. There were things that were like, fantastic. Like what that 50th was a microcosm of SNL as a whole, and this finale was that too. The season opener, you would think the season opener for the 50th season is going to be amazing. Like it was fine, but every episode I would guarantee you had at least 2 or 3 really good sketches. I can't really think of any duds off the top of my head, any dud episodes. There were a few hosts that that first one was close. But for the most part, I thought the season, I think it's the season that you'll look back on. You'll be like, oh yeah, this was a good, solid season of the show. Not the best, not the worst. And the finale felt exactly like that too,
Yeah, I would agree. Rebecca, your final thoughts on season 50?
Yeah, I think you all worded it perfectly, but I mean, think about the hype coming into this was like, whoa, this is the 50th season. This is an election year. This is, oh my God, this is going to be crazy. And it was I think a strong season. I mean, we haven't had like the best seasons in the past few. So I think it was strong. I think whether we look back on this saying it's a strong season is really going to be dependent on if there are cast shifts or changes, because if a big chunk of the cast changes for next season, we're going to look back and say that's probably end of an era. And how do we end that era? Is it going to be more Bo and Sarah Jane Wick lines, or is it going to be more Ashley Padilla's in the upcoming people to fill those roles? It really, I think it'll depend all what happens here. Or if we're going to say it's going to be like season going back and everyone's still here, then season 51, I think will probably be a stronger season. If it's majority of the same cast members now, where they don't have all the hype and the stress and the pressure of being such a high pressure and a high visibility year, where they can kind of just like let loose, do their thing. I think we might actually see greater results if a big chunk of the cast does not leave. If it does leave, then I think then that's all up in the air, but gives me higher hopes for next season.
John, can I just one more point too about this season? That big gap in the middle of the second half where they were able to plug in SNL 50, and we had like a month in the second half of the season between regular episodes. Man, I hope we never do that again. That did kind of like, that was a weird sort of, it really disjointed the season for me when I think back to the season. Like, I really like the momentum we get into in a normal second half of a season where you get into some regular stretches.
Yeah, certainly.
I have a quick question for the group, and John, I don't even know if we're allowed to do this, but can we make predictions for who will not be on the show next year? Or no? Is that a different episode entirely?
No, you can do that. Yeah, by all means.
I'm curious what everyone would think, but if I had to guess right now, I feel like this was the last episode for Jost, Che, Heidi, and Devin, and I think those would be my guesses.
All right. Anyone else want to take a crack at this?
Sure. Jost, Che, Mikey, Heidi, Jane, Devin. If we're really going there, and then I'm gonna throw in Bowen because that really felt like the end. Oh, wait, Chloe Fineman. I actually think she's number 1 on my list probably to go for next year.
Really? Oh, I think she's got at least one more year, if I had to guess. You think this is her last one?
Yeah, I think it's her last one.
Interesting.
Wow, it's like you guys never even lived through this is Cecily and Kate in 80s last year. Everybody's leaving. We did that for 4 years before we finally got it.
I was so
I don't-
young.
I guess I'll put Bowen in there only because I feel like by the time next season rolls around, we are going to be into Wicked Part 2, and I just wonder if Bowen's gonna it's time for him to take that next step into Hollywood.
But it's already filmed, and his character is barely in the second half of Wicked.
No, I don't mean leaving to film Wicked, and I don't necessarily mean that Wicked Part 2 is going to be like people are going to be walking out being like Bowen Yang's a star. I just think it's like I think you only have so many of those big Hollywood releases while you're on SNL before it's like, hey, listen, this SNL thing's starting to get in the way a little bit. Yeah. And I don't know if how many people, as great as I think Mikey Day is and Heidi Gardner and some of these other people are, I don't know if they've had those big releases yet where their agents are going, do you want me to get you out of this SNL contract? Because we got plenty of other stuff lined up for you.
Yeah, but why were Mikey and Heidi crying at table reads?
I mean, that's the great thing about this is that, the storylines will be endless until we get back to covering it. And I will get my answer to this question. I just won't do it tonight because I do have a lot more podcasts to do and I want to break this down entirely. So we're going to be doing that shortly. Let me tell you about all of the things that are coming up here on the SNN. So next up, we will be here on Wednesday night for our By the Numbers show. I will be live with Andrew Dick and Mike Murray to go through the numbers from week number 20 of season 50. That should be a very fun show to welcome Andrew back to the show for. So looking forward to that one. On Thursday, we will have our interview with Fred Armisen here on the main feed. So looking forward to putting that one out to all of you. On the patron feed, we will have our exclusive SNL sketch breakdown. The poll is out now to vote for the sketch that you want us to talk about even further. So that one will be out as well. We will then have the form out for our patrons to register for a feedback show, which will take place on June 2nd. So that'll be 2 Mondays from tonight. Next week, we will have our roundtable, our postseason roundtable, where we will go through everything from the season. We will then have our postseason By the Numbers show on that Wednesday next week, 9 days from now, where it is a marathon show that we will go through every single cast member season, talk about all of their analytics, and I will make my predictions over there for then. So lots of stuff coming up here. We're also potentially scheduled to speak to one of the current cast members. I have another SNL stories lined up that I think you guys will really enjoy in a couple of weeks. And then we will begin our summer countdown series where we will be counting down the greatest SNL episodes of all time. So the poll will be out next week for that. I encourage you all to vote to get your thoughts into the show. And we're just a few weeks away now from everything you need to know about Saturday Night Live season 21 premiering on the YouTube channel. So we're looking forward to getting that one out to you and returning to everything you need to know.
I love those.
I know you're a big fan of those. So
big fan.
So
it's
going to be, a lot of good stuff here between now and the start of 51. Looking forward to keeping the feed pretty busy, even though we're light on new SNL content. So it'll be a lot of fun to be with you all summer long for both everything you need to know and as well that countdown series. Haskell, thank you so much for joining us. Always appreciate getting to talk to you about Saturday Night Live and completing our 5th season of coverage together. So thanks for joining us.
Yeah, and ending these seasons is never goodbye. We got a packed summer coming up. We're so excited to join you and all the fans and everybody. It's going to be a really fun summer. So I'm excited about that. Thanks to everybody who's always here for that. And of course, Andrew E. Haskell on all social media, stand-up dates all over New England. Got to open for John Rudnitsky recently, and he told me it was because of all of you. He didn't really tell me that, but if that's going to get you to a show, I'd really appreciate it.
Did you hear the shout out in the SNL stories with John Rudnitsky to you?
Can we just say real quick? That was the most I have no idea who you're talking about moment I've ever seen in my life. John was the nicest guy. He was hilarious. Hey, he said you were the nice guy. Oh, he was the nice. That was. I showed my wife that, and she was like, "He had no clue who he was talking about."
That's what you do. And it's like, hey, one of our great podcasters, Haskell, and he's like, fuck that. But it was a very funny moment. Rebecca, so great to get to talk to you all season long about SNL, also completing your 5th season with us here on the podcast. So appreciate every time you get to join us. Anything you would like to say to the listeners?
It's been such a good season. Thank you so much for having me. It was great podcasting with you, Arthur, tonight for the first time. And
You too.
I'll see you this summer if you'll have me.
Of course, we will definitely have you some point at this countdown, talk about some fun episodes. Maybe we'll get you to watch an old episode of Saturday Night Live for the countdown. So it'll be a lot of fun. Arthur, so great to get to talk to you about SNL. It's just like truly a blast to have you on the show every single time. So please tell the listeners where they can find everything you got going on.
Well, thank you for having me on, John. And yeah, Haskell and Rebecca, very, very good to hang out with you guys too. You guys can check out ABC Parenting. It's on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And it's a series, it's like a web series that we have 50 episodes for, and we're coming out with 55 more starting later this year. It stars me and Stephanie Drake and we just give bad parenting advice. And a couple cameos in the series include former SNL alum Beck Bennett and Ellen Cleghorn, and non-SNL people Erica Badu, Abby Jacobson, Lauren Lapkus. So I recommend that you guys watch it. It's fun. It's called ABC Parenting. And yeah, my name is Arthur Meyer, and this is always very fun. I'm an enormous SNL nerd, so I just love talking about it forever.
Yeah, you fit in very perfectly over here. So happy to have you, Arthur. Definitely everyone go check out ABC Parenting. Want to thank Haskell, Arthur, and Rebecca for joining us on our final roundtable of the regular season, and everyone in the live chat for being with us. If you enjoyed our content here, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, so you never miss any of the shows we have going on. You can leave us a comment after the fact in the video to give us your thoughts on this episode. Anything we missed, anything we got right, anything we got wrong. Regardless, give us a thumbs up on the video. It helps people find the show. And you could follow us on social media, on any social platform at the SNL Network. We are working very hard behind the scenes. Our incredible team is working on these post-season SNL graphics that detail all of the stats from season 50. Those are just incredible. So if you are a nerd like us, you definitely don't want to miss those. So make sure to follow us at the SNL Network. I want to thank latenighter.com for being our presenting partner for the show here tonight, and everyone for hanging out with us all of these Monday nights during the regular season to talk about these episodes and what they will mean in the future. Love doing these roundtables. So on behalf of everyone here at the Saturday Night Network, my name is Jon Schneider, and we will see you next time, everybody. Have a good one.